science is a class, and we are going to look at chemical part 3. We've taken part 1 and 2. We saw the different uses of chemicals. We saw the pharmaceutical uses, we saw the agro use, we saw the cosmetic use, we saw the industrial use of chemicals in our last class. We've taken 2 parts. The first part will explain what chemicals are. And so today we are going to look at 2 major objectives in part 3 of chemicals. One, we're going to classify chemicals based on their hazardous nature. And then secondly, we're going to look at the safety measures while handling chemicals. Chemicals' hazardous natures can be classified into 3 major areas. We'll talk about chemicals that are highly hazardous and toxic, moderately hazardous and toxic, non-hazardous and non-toxic. You see, it is in 3 parts. When we say that a chemical is highly hazardous and toxic, it means that the chemical is not friendly at all. It's going to be harmful to the skin, harmful to the organs of the body, harmful in inhalation. When you inhale it, it's going to have a negative effect in the system. When you touch it, it's going to have a negative effect on the skin, and it's going to be hazardous to the cell of the system of the human body or animals that it can come in contact with. That is a form of hazardous nature of chemicals. So we see the first one is very hazardous. So when you come in contact with such hazardous chemicals, like we have acid. If your body gets in contact with acid, it's going to burn it up. You're going to have serious injuries. What if you inhale badly gaseous substance? It's going to be hazardous too. So those kind of chemicals that have serious effect on the skin, in the system, is highly hazardous, highly toxic. Then we look at chemicals that are moderately hazardous and moderately toxic. That is to say that if well handled, it can serve good purpose, but if mishandled, it can be disastrous. For example, your cooking gas. The cooking gas is moderately hazardous if properly handled. But if not properly handled, it can escalate to being highly hazardous. 1. If the flame of the gas touches your skin, it's not going to burn it up. But if it is not well handled, it can flame up and cause wildfire. It is moderately toxic because if you inhale it, you're going to choke a little. But after a little while, it will go off. It will not cause serious harm or damage to your system immediately, unless in constant inhalation over time. But it is not going to be very harmful like you have in highly toxic and hazardous kind of chemicals. Then we have the non-hazardous and non-toxic chemicals. Number 1 example is water. Water is a chemical, but it's very, very mild. Friendly to the hand, friendly to the body, friendly to the cell. So when handling water, we say that water is non-hazardous. It is non-toxic. It has no smell, it has no color, it has no effect on the skin. So we have classified chemicals in these 2 areas: highly hazardous, moderately hazardous and toxic, then non-hazardous and non-toxic. So these are the three areas we can classify chemicals into. Now we're going to look at safety measures when using chemicals. What are safety measures we have to put in place when we are handling our chemicals? Be it pharmaceutical, be it industrial, be it cosmetic, be it in the agro area. How do we handle each of these chemicals? How do we handle chemicals that are highly hazardous? How do we handle chemicals that are moderately hazardous? How do we handle chemicals that are non-toxic, non-hazardous? That will be our second objective. So let's see how these chemicals can be handled and how we can keep them safe from hurting us. Second objective, which is measures when we are using chemicals. There are a lot of measures we need to take. Let's talk about some of them. 1. Storage and labeling. When you are storing your chemicals and you are labeling your chemicals, it requires a lot of deal. First, you have to store your chemical in a shelf, in a cupboard that can be locked and out of the reach of children or people who might not know that these containers, these bottles, are chemicals that are stored on them. So put it in a cupboard, lock it so that unwanted people who may not know the effect, the hazardous nature of this chemical, might not have access to them. Label them. Write the names of the chemicals on them. Now under this labeling, 1, we want to keep chemicals in the original container. That will help people to identify it. Let chemicals be on their original containers. 2, label each of these chemicals in the language that people understand. If it is English language that people around you understand better, please label them in English. This is caustic soda. This is acid. This is chlorine. Make sure you label them in such a way. You can label some highly inflammable, corrosive. That will help people to know that there is a warning sign. Another one is don't use abbreviation when labeling, putting labels on your chemicals. You want to use H2O. You want to use chemical names to label them. No, don't use abbreviation. Don't use names that people who are not in the sciences will not understand. If it is acid, write acid. If it is chlorine, put chlorine. If it is caustic soda, caustic soda. If it requires you putting underneath, very dangerous, very hazardous, very toxic, put it there. That will make people to be aware, oh, this I should keep aside. This I should not touch. Alright, so we look at another areas of handling chemicals safely. We look at the corrosive chemicals. Corrosive chemicals. That if it gets in touch with your body and you inhale it, there's going to be a problem. For example, caustic soda, acid, they are very corrosive to the skin. And they are very deadly. When handling them, there are special gloves for handling them. There are special masks for that you put on to work with them. Sometimes we just work with these chemicals and not having the precautionary mind of how these things should be handled. Make sure you have equipment to handle these chemicals before you start playing with them. If you want to produce soap and you want to use caustic soda, you are doing some industrial work and requires acid, please put up the necessary gadgets that will protect you from the harmful nature of this chemical, whether highly hazardous, moderately hazardous, very toxic or less toxic. Alright, we have fuels. We want to store fuel. Fuels, gasoline, these things are highly explosive. Though they help us in our everyday life, we use them to cook. We use them to light up our gadgets. It's used for generating light as for the fuel. But when not properly handled, it's a story for another day. So what do we do? Keep fuel away from children, keep fuel away from fire, keep fuel away from where you know it will not be dangerous. As of gas, don't allow children that are underage without supervision to use gas so that it doesn't explode. Don't shake cylinders to know the content remaining. Pour water on your cylinder, you will see the content. Then if you want to, you can use similarly transparent cylinders so that you can avoid this harmful or disastrous ending for these chemicals. Store them in a place that is out of fire, store them in a place out of reach of children. Label them highly hazardous. There are symbols for poison, for making people to be on the know about the effects of these chemicals. We have different symbols for caution. Symbols for caution. There is this one that has a human skull and two bones put together, telling you that this is deadly. There is another sign that has an exclamation mark, telling you to be warned. And so other signs that let you know that these things are marked dangerous. Put them there, place them on the cylinder, place them on the bottle, place them where these things are found. If it is in a room that is kept, put all these signs in the door of the room. Let people who want to go in know that they are trending on a dangerous path. I'm going to give you an assignment. Find out the symbols that shows that a chemical is hazardous. What is their sample like? I've told you of the skull, I've told you of the exclamation mark. There are others too that you can find. Go to Google, find out signs, symbols that can be labeled on chemicals that are highly hazardous, moderately hazardous, and non-hazardous. Then we have our moderately hazardous content like chlorine. Can burn a little but will not have serious impact on the skin. Non-hazardous, non-toxic like water, we can drink it, we can use it on a daily basis. Those ones have no major issues. But moderately hazardous still have issues because you will sustain a measure of injury. But for highly hazardous, highly toxic, stay away. Keep off. You're going to hurt yourself. So we have classified chemicals based on their nature, their hazardous nature. We have equally stated the safety measures we can put in place when handling these chemicals. We have seen the highly toxic, highly hazardous, moderately toxic, moderately hazardous, non-toxic, non-hazardous. We have seen how these things work. We have equally seen how we can handle these chemicals. Please learn and apply. The cylinder in your house, the gas you use in cooking, the fuel you use in powering your generator, whatever you use fuel for, the kerosene in your home, these things are chemicals. They need to be handled properly. Don't get yourself burnt. Don't get yourself killed because of handling chemicals inappropriately. That's why we have this basic science class. We are letting you know the effect of these chemicals so you can be on your tippy toe. You can be on the know. You can be aware. You can be warned of how these things have to be used. I hope you find value for this class. Share the video. Invite your friends to this community. Share the videos to those you think needs to know about it. Create awareness about chemicals and why we need to use some and why we need to stay away from some, why we need proper gadgets to use some chemicals. If you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button so that when we upload a new videos like this, you'll be first to know about it. I am happy to be here and I love you, my community. Ask your question below the comment box. Do my assignment so you can understand what I mean. Subscribe if you've not subscribed. If you want these classes in a folder like your basic science class, head over to Plaza Online School where you can purchase it for a token. It's a mobile class where you learn everywhere. Learn as you go, learn at home, learn at school, learn as you go. Everywhere you go, go ahead and learn. Let learning be part of you. Until I come your way. Next class, we've rounded up our classes on chemicals. We'll go to other basic science topics that will benefit you now and in the future. Thank you for dropping by.